Hi, I'm Avery or Hazel or Kylie,
Hello, I am Lily.
and I'm pissed off. And don't you have to be funny to be a comedian?
I like how those two things
Anyway,
don't correlate but make sense to me.
anyway, this is like our 50-foot fucking billionth time trying to record this episode, so I'm pissed. Um, but anyway, we're covering Joker today. It's our first DC movie, which apparently stands for Detective Comics, as we found out in our last recording. Um, yeah, it's our first DC movie, which is interesting because it's not the same vibe as other DC movies. It's not even really a superhero movie. It's more of a social commentary.
Logistical things out of the
Also,
way. We're starting to do the wheel, spinning the wheel at the beginning. We've already spun the wheel. It's Encanto.
yeah, so uh, one of our next few podcasts episodes will be in Kanto. It may not be the next one. I don't know. I don't have the forethought to figure out when this video is even going to be posted. So, well, video slash audio version, depending on what platform you're on.
Hooray! Okay, now let's get into it. Oh, spoilers ahead.
Okay, so spoilers, blah, blah, blah. You can find a link to purchase this below if you're on YouTube.
Some people hate this
And
movie.
then,
Avery doesn't.
yeah, also there's you can watch this on HBO Max. There's a cinema therapy video on this movie. Okay, spoilers from now on. Okay, so as I was saying before, a lot of people were saying that Joaquin Phoenix is great in this movie, but the movie itself is not good. I completely disagree. They're wrong. This movie is fantastic. It's not enjoyable because it's meant to make you uncomfortable. That's the entire purpose of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it is still a great movie. It's a social commentary, and a lot of people completely missed that, it's not glorifying the bad guy, just like the Hunger Games wasn't glorifying kids killing kids. Well, it kind of was, but that was the point, was that it was horrible, and people completely missed that. But anyway, this movie is just it's a cautionary tale. It's not saying that this is what will happen if you aren't kind to mentally ill people, but it's saying that this is a possibility that can
I
happen.
think it's
It's also
also, like, I think the stuff leading up to this is stuff that has already happened in too many people.
yeah, exactly. Because society really fails Joker. Like first of all, he has mental illness. Then secondly, he gets adopted by a parent who is mentally ill already. Then her boyfriend abuses him, and he's left with a condition where he can't control his own. He can't control his laughter. I can't remember what this medical condition is called. But it reminds me of Tourette's in a very similar way. You don't have control over your own actions. And as someone with ADHD, I can sort of relate to that. But for me, it's more like I don't really have control over my mind. Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's a better way to explain ADHD. It's certainly not as bad as, like, it's certainly not as bad as I imagine Tourette's or this medical condition that Joker has. It's not as bad as what I imagine them to be
I
like.
believe the condition is caused by something like the connection between the left and the right halves of your brain. Um, I want to say disconnecting, but it also could be form even more connections than before. Either way, it's the connection between those two halves of your brain that's
Well, I mean, I know it has to do, I know it stems from an injury, because that's what they were saying in the cinema therapy video.
and you can also be like from surgery as well. Like I guess not just the injury, but also trying to help the injury.
Yeah. But yeah, so society. Okay, so already he has this effect, and um, then like he's taking a bunch of different medications because like he has bipolar disorder. He has something that's causing hallucinations, which I don't know if bipolar disorder does, but I don't. The way I understand it, I don't think it does. Um, but yeah, he's taking all these medications, and then the government stops funding the place where he was going to get the prescription for these medications. So
Ugh.
they have to close, and he's not taking his medications. And that's when everything start really, really unravels. Um, sort of, because there's a bit of weirdness here, because he killed those people on the subway before he stopped taking the medication. But then you have to question if that's accurate, because the end of this movie reveals that like he was the that everything in the movie that happened was him recounting the events to a psychiatrist. And we know he has delusions. Like there was this girl that he was with several times throughout the movie, and it's later revealed that it's fake. It never
And
happened,
more
and that he woke up to
realistically,
that.
he only met her once on the
Yeah.
elevator.
And like, yeah. And well, I mean, whether or not that's even real, who knows? But
That's
like,
true.
he eventually wakes up to the fact that this was all a delusion. How much of what happened throughout the movie was a delusion that he did not wake up to? We don't know. But like keen eyes might notice that like when he kills the people in the subway, the type of gun he's using should not have enough bullets to fire the amount of shots that it did. I think this was intentional. I don't think it was a mistake by
Honestly,
the writers
if
and
it was
directors.
any other type of movie, I probably would have said it was probably a mistake. But everything in this movie seems to be painfully intentional.
Yeah, like I feel like this is intentional.
Especially for the type of movie they wanted to make. They wanted
Yeah.
you to question what is real and what is not. So they
And then
made certain points to remind you of that.
and like they also really want to make you uncomfortable.
Mhm.
They want to make you realize that this is a very real possibility. This is a thing that can happen, and that as a society we really do create our own villains
But it's
a lot of the
also
time.
something. What's amazing about a movie like this, with any sort of mental disability, you can't see it. You don't know what that person is going through. Movies like
Yeah,
this, um, I know a bunch of movies that accurately dictate, uh, like PTSD. Like, because to most
yeah.
people, you wouldn't be able to imagine that. But
Iron Man 3. We recently covered another movie that had PTSD in it, didn't we?
I feel like we did, but I cannot remember. Um,
Yeah, I can't remember what it was either.
because
Uh,
to someone that has not been experiencing it, you could not imagine how it feels like. But
oh, it was Catching Fire.
oh yeah, that's right. But to for a movie, you're basically opening a window and watching someone else experiencing it through their eyes, through their
Yeah, and
mind.
to be fair, you can do this with like games too,
Oh
or
yeah,
books,
through any
or
type of
TV
media.
shows, or
I feel like the ones that you can use the more amount of your senses, eyes, ears, though I guess even books you have your sixth sense, which is knowing what they're thinking.
you can even do this to a degree with music.
Oh yeah,
There's a lot of music that is like written to make you understand what it's like to be certain types of people.
There's
Um,
actually this is nowhere of what you were going with, but a piece of music that I've heard that apparently the composer has this weird condition to when they hear music, they see colors. And apparently it was written in such a way for like to like fully show this a very colorful
hmm.
piece.
See, the two songs that came to my mind really
Hmm.
quickly were Ordinary, which is a song made for the Owl House. Um, and then there's another song called Village by Rabel. And that song is made to to make people understand what it feels like to be a trans man.
Remember, you're not listening to Ordinary Right if you're not listening to the Hootie cover.
Ew, that sounds awful.
It's
But
amazing.
like the song Ordinary never fails to make me cry. Because I relate to it so much.
Honest,
And to hear someone like perfectly capture it with the lyrics, and on top of that the vocals being amazing.
I don't think I can hear it in any other way other than Hootie.
I mean, it's supposed to be Lose.
I would tell that to Alex Hirsch.
Anyway, back to Joker, because we don't really need to talk about the Owl House more until we get to covering the Owl House, which actually just had the season 2
God,
finale.
I need to see
Um,
Amphibia season finale, and I keep putting it off. Whatever.
but yeah, I think a lot of people miss the point of this movie. I think the controversy surrounding it is stupid and oddly pretty much the same controversy that was around the Hunger Games. People just not understanding the obvious point that it was trying to get across because it's not subtle.
Yeah, this movie was anything but subtle.
Yeah, exactly. And like, another thing too I appreciate about this movie is like, even though you you recognize that everything that the things that he's doing are wrong,
Hmm.
you still root for him. There's that awkward, uncomfortable feeling of the fact that you're actually rooting for him.
Yeah, and I feel like it comes like, oh god, this guy's terrible. Go do it? I don't. It's a very uncomfortable feeling, but I actually think it's appropriate to touch into the Hunger Games because we never really mentioned the controversy surrounding that.
We did.
Not in full. Like we
We absolutely did.
no, because I don't remember touching it.
But that's probably because we first covered the Hunger Games.
Oh,
I think it went live back in January, but I think we recorded it in December.
no, the actual thing about it is that I mean, obviously, I know people. Yeah, no, we never touched on how the actual movie, like the actual controversy. We talked about how there was a um uh, satire film. What was that called? The Hungry Games.
The
Yeah, the
Starving
Starving
Games?
Games. Thank you. What
No,
was that
okay.
called?
I'm telling you, we absolutely did touch on it because I did recently listen to all of our podcast episodes. We absolutely did. Briefly, we shot it down in like 2 sentences because the controversy is stupid just like it is with this movie.
Honestly, in my mind, I was like, we didn't talk about it enough, but I guess because I actually don't really know what they've been saying.
Well, I mean, the whole thing with the Hunger Games was like, it's kids killing kids and they're glorifying it, and that's horrible. Well, yeah, that's the point.
Do me a favor and tell me what glorifying means. I hear it all the time, but I need a proper definition.
I don't know how to respond to that. That's like asking what the means.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It's like,
It's like
having it portrayed as like a good thing or a thing to seek, like a thing that someone should be given praise for.
okay. Because I hear it all the time, and I'm only assuming the context. So it comes like with these types of movies where someone can just completely miss the point. They see death and someone killing and be like, that's bad, it's the movie's fault. But like, that's the entire point of the movie. The entire point of the movie is that killing bad. Why do you think, especially with the Hunger Games, the Hunger Games pisses me off because the entire point is that they don't want to have the Hunger Games anymore. But, the media sees kids killing kids and be like, oh, everyone wants the people who made this want the Hunger Games to be real. Like, no.
Yeah, it's just stupid. And then like with this movie, the message here isn't really killing bad. It's more of like we create our own villains. And this is a thing that can sometimes happen when we aren't kind to mentally ill people. It's not a guarantee. This is not saying that like this will happen if you aren't kind to mentally ill. And for like any mentally ill people out there, it's not saying that you will become like this if people aren't nice to you.
It's a very
But
hard movie to analyze. I mean, how should I say? It's fun to analyze, but it's challenging.
yeah, it's not as difficult to cover as All Quiet on the Western Front was, because that one was just really hard. I didn't really know what to say at all.
And I think it's a different thing because that at the end of the day, Joker is 100% fiction. None of this actually happened.
Yeah, whereas like All Quiet on the Western Front is
At least
still fiction, but it's still fiction, but it's historical fiction based on a war that actually happened.
at least 50% of that movie actually happened. In Joker's case,
Well,
Gotham City doesn't exist. Does it exist?
no.
Yeah, Gotham City doesn't exist. Even if it did, none of the people in it exist. I don't go my day-to-day life like, oh, and there's the Joker. Like, no, that's not happening.
Yeah. And also just random thing, this is the first rated R movie we've ever covered.
And the next one's probably going to be Deadpool.
Probably.
It'll be actually funny. Wait, hold on a second. If Deadpool is going to be coming...
What? Use your words.
Oh, Deadpool will be our first rated R movie.
Why?
Isn't that one going to be one of the free movie of the month for June?
Maybe.
Okay, maybe. If it is, that's going to come out before this podcast.
Yeah. We are still in May at the current point in time.
Yeah, so...
Although it is May 29th.
Even though this is the first rated R movie that we are currently recording, it's not the first rated R movie we're going to be releasing.
If Deadpool's still free.
God hope it is. Maybe
I don't even remember what it was free
I
on.
think it was on Amazon and something because of Amazon.
Maybe. I can check later because Just Watch is such a powerful
It'd
tool.
be funny
Um,
if Deadpool
what?
becomes not free, but we found another rated R movie.
That would be hilarious. You know what would be even more
What?
funny? If the movie we cover next month is rated G.
What the? Isn't? Oh God, I don't want to cover a rated G movie.
We have covered rated G movies. I'm sure of it. I can't
Oh,
I'm not.
right. Okay,
I'm not 100% sure
I
what,
do
but
not want to cover
I'm
a.
fairly confident we
I
have.
want to cover a modern rated G movie because I believe
I mean,
like the standards of rating have gone up. Because like I think most Disney movies were around G, back in the day, and then
I'd say there's probably some like romance movies that are G. I don't know. Like it varies. We'll see.
well,
Because like I imagine there's still some modern movies that are fantastic that are rated G.
let's see.
And besides that, like I haven't gone through our podcast and just like checked what every single movie is rated, but I know none of them have been rated R.
Yeah.
Even All Quiet on the Western Front, that was PG-13.
Huh. I guess G
Yeah.
is yeah, Princess and the Frog is rated G. Okay, well I guess they hand out G's a lot more. Honestly, I thought more Disney movies were rated PG.
Well, see, there's some Disney movies in the modern era, and the modern era of Disney starts with Tangled.
We talked about
Um,
this, but you can
that
watch the podcast in any order. So
yeah, there's some Disney movies in the modern era that I'm fairly confident are PG. Tangled, Raya and the Last Dragon, um,
um,
just because they have some violent scenes in them.
Lady and the Tramp G, Ratatouille G, Wally is G, Toy
What was
Story
Turning Red?
4. Oh, I don't know.
But yeah. So this movie, Joker, it it kind of sets up the Batman of this universe. I hope they never do a follow up.
I wanted to follow up.
I
Also, as a PG.
I've okay, yeah. I have a feeling that like a follow up would just kind of tarnish this movie quite a lot. Um, because like we're in an era of DC movies where like we'll randomly get a good one, but most of them suck.
I didn't see it. I mean, wasn't the newest
And
Batman pretty good?
I haven't seen it, but I'm hearing everyone raving about it. And I don't know. Because, like, if Zack Snyder's behind it, I can't imagine it's actually very good.
I mean, if it was.
For people who are fans of the characters in the comics. Because, like,
Hmm.
mm.
But didn't you also say that doesn't really matter, like being accurate to the comics?
Okay, it doesn't really matter a lot, but, like, if you completely tarnish what the characters' motivations are, it can end up being terrible
On its own merits.
because it on its own merits. Yeah. Because, like, we have the Sony Spider-Man universe. Sorry, the Sony Pictures Marvel universe.
Oh, hey, the name that
They changed
changes
the name of
every
that.
other
Like,
week?
yeah, like, God. Yeah, you have that. And most people agree that that universe of Marvel movies, which currently only has 3, is terrible.
Hmm. Though
But,
usually if
yeah,
like
I mean,
I know this isn't, accurate, but usually a trash movie gets trash reviews, you know?
But then a lot of the time, great movies get mediocre
That's
reviews.
true.
Yeah, and it's like, uh,
You-
I don't get critics sometimes. And then, like, also regarding DC, there's a Flash movie coming up that's like, it's getting a lot of controversy um, because the actor that plays the Flash, Ezra Miller, they did something. They did something. I don't remember what it was. Um, and I'm using they them because those are the pronouns that they actually use. Um,
So they did
they did
something.
something. Yeah, they did something. I don't remember what. Everyone's mad about it. I want to say I remember it actually being justified.
Can you look it up
I
after the podcast? Because I'm actually a little bit interested myself.
Yeah, I probably will look it up after the podcast. But like, I remember looking into this controversy quite a while back and seeing, yeah, this is actually not a dumb controversy. Um,
Wait, sorry. When you said justified, I thought like the thing he did was justified, or is the controversy justified?
I think the controversy is justified.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, I think people are justifiably angry. Um, but like, obviously, I'm a firm believer in the fact that like, even if a trans person does something bad, you still gender them correctly. Like, you don't get to misgender people just because you don't like them, because it shows all trans people that you don't really support them.
Hmm. Have we
But
only
yeah,
gone
on
27
joke,
minutes? Jesus.
27, 27, I don't know. But yeah, so we'll see how that Flash movie turns out. It's probably still going to be good either way because like they're bringing in Michael Keaton Batman and some other characters I can't remember.
Here's a good
Because like,
question. So let's just
hmm,
say you were right and the controversy is completely justified, but the movie ended up good and getting completely bombed. Like, I guess my real question is like, who would really be at fault here?
I'm not sure. I think the movie can still do well, especially if Ezra Miller just kind of continues to lay low and not really be active on social media.
Hmm. Again, because we don't
And I know a lot. I know I've seen a few other people echo that sentiment.
also we don't really know. Well, I never knew. Avery just can't remember what they've done. So, um,
Yeah,
after this, we're gonna get to remembering.
yeah. I'm gonna look it up later. But yeah, so regarding this movie, I think we should go ahead and take a look at the critic reviews.
Already, I mean, I, f- I feel like we talk about so little and yet so much.
I mean, we talked about quite a lot. It's like really heavy topics, and like,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can. Okay, were there any? Was there anything in this movie that particularly like surprised you? Like, oh my god, I can't believe they actually just did that.
Oh, definitely the subway accident. Where he well
Accident.
incident.
Yeah, there you go. That's the right word.
Um, that I mean, that is the pure definition of well, that escalated quickly. Because
Hey,
yeah,
Lily, did you bring me on this show just to make fun of me?
yes, which is funny because that was this entire podcast was your idea.
Yep, and it's on my YouTube channel.
But yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. Because actually, you have that in real life. you have these talk hosts, and I believe some actors were saying like to get on these talk hosts, you think is a great honor until you do it. Until after you do it, well, it's like, well, that sucked.
Yeah. And like also like just making fun of people for comedy isn't really
Comedy.
yeah, it is just horrible. Especially like when the person you're making fun of is mentally ill. And like he wasn't making fun of him for his mental illness actually. He was making fun of him for the brain injury related illness that he had.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still horrible either way.
And I mean, this is a commentary also on the natural there's a sensitivity of talk show hosts.
It's like ableism. Ableism is the word here. Like the comedian or whatever,
Mhm.
he was just being ableist.
But
Like that's the bottom line.
I mean, I want to talk about
You can tell disability jokes in a way that's
the real world equivalent of where um you actually I have every day other than today I could probably have said a name of someone that probably did something like this, but I can't now.
I can tell you exactly who did something like this.
Well, just like bringing someone on and just making fun of their work, not just mental illness, because that just happens way too often. You know,
Yeah, I was more saying like when I said what I just said
yeah.
there, like I can tell you who did something like this. I mean more of like making fun of somebody for something that they can't control. And like the first person that comes to mind is Dave Chappelle.
Honestly, I heard that name before, and I can't remember what they did, but the first thing that comes to my mind was Easy Target.
Yeah, it was like he was the guy who was on Netflix and he did a whole comedy in quotes special making fun of trans people. And it's like, you can tell disability jokes. You can tell trans jokes. You can tell gay jokes that can still be funny. And you don't have to have the disability. You don't have to be gay. You don't have to be trans to make these jokes. You just can't make us the butt of the joke. Our existence isn't the joke. And like, I'm reminded of this one guy on TikTok.
Ugh,
And I don't
TikTok.
actually use TikTok. I just know he's a TikToker, and like I watched a YouTube short that was a repost from TikTok, whatever. Um, but anyway, he told this joke where it was basically like, he knew this girl, and like she brought her girlfriend over to like their friend group, and like, she seemed really nice, and blah 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 blah. Like, introducing her to everybody. Um, and then like later she asks him what he thought of her, and he was like, I don't really know how to tell you this, but I think she's gay. It's like that was a really funny joke. It was a gay joke that was actually funny, and it was funnier the way he told it. I'm just recounting it.
I'm gonna
But
say this one thing. We're gonna move on and not go into it. The people who are re-uploading the TikToks to YouTube are literally printing money.
I
That's all I
mean,
wanted to say.
yeah. But yeah, I think this movie was great. Like I said, you can watch it on HBO Max along with most other DC movies. Um, we might cover the DCEU at some point, but honestly, it's such a low priority that it's like not even on our wheel. And I don't even know what movies are technically a part of it. I just know that this isn't. Um,
I think
So
it is
yeah,
time to get to the critic review because I honestly think we've talked a lot about this movie, especially how we feel about it as a piece of cinema, just a piece of media in general. I think it's really good.
yeah, and I think it's like very powerful in its
So
messaging
I
too.
think
It's not
the
subtle, but like it's still powerful.
critics
Yeah.
Avery
So
summoned them.
IMDb gives this an 8.4 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 68,
Hmm.
and Metacritic is 59, and 90% of Google users like the movie. So this is one of those instances where the Google users is much higher than the critic reviews.
Mm-hmm. I want to go first. Now I can praise this movie all day. The fact of the matter, it is still uncomfortable, and I will rate as such. And Avery will actually know I'm going to rate this when I say it, even though I'm not going to say numbers. I think this movie has too much water.
You're giving this a 7.8.
Yep.
Okay. So so when we were when we were covering But I'm a Cheerleader, the amount of discomfort that the movie made me feel was you know, an aspect of how I rated it and how it detracted from the movie for me.
Yeah.
In Even though like it was trying to do that, it felt like it was taking away from the comedy and romance aspects of the
I
movie for
I know
me.
where you're going with this, and I can also agree that, like, I guess for this movie, I would say that the fact that it is uncomfortable was the entire point. So,
Yeah. And I feel like, this movie really achieves everything that it sets out to do. Like literally everything that it sets out to do. So, given all of that, I am going to give this movie a 9.7.
ooh, okay.
And yeah, so join us either next week or in a few weeks for Encanto.
Yeah.
Lily and I will be recording Camp Camp. No, we will not be recording Camp Camp next week.
Are we?
Because I think next week we have to record our free movie of the month and Captain America.
I mean, Camp does go pretty fast. We could probably record it tomorrow.
Maybe.
It's a possibility.
Yeah. So anyway, um, yeah. Until next time, I've been Avery. That has been Lily. And don't make fun of mentally ill people.